Coming up, the New York Times gets hacked for 4 months. Is online journalism under attack? Amazon making its own virtual money. Is anybody going to use this stuff? And Michael Dell buys back his company. Is this a smart move? Oh, and Steam, they want to take over your living room. Are PCs going to usurp the game consoles over there? All those stories and a lot more coming up on this episode of Downloaded. Welcome to Downloaded. This is the show where we gather the most opinionated voices in the tech field today, and we focus all that energy on the key stories that are impacting your tech world. I'm your host, Jim Lauterbach. Joining me today, really glad to have Jason Cross here, executive editor of TechHive.com. Jason, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Jason and I worked together at Extreme Tech a few years ago. And TechHive now part of PC World, Macworld, Orbit. You're doing great stuff over there, so it's glad to have you.
Yeah.
And Adam Sessler, who once in future worked with Adam, who's now Rev 3 Games here at Revision 3. Great to have Adam here. And this is he's making the rounds of all the Revision 3 shows this week. You were on D News earlier, right?
Yes, I did D News. I'm here now. I know I was somewhere else, and of course Rev 3 Games.
And lots more places to go.
Yeah, I'm just going to have one of those harness cameras in front of me, just at all times. I think it'll work.
Well, it's good to have both you guys here because we've got stories both about gaming, which both of you are very involved in gaming. Jason used to work at a gaming magazine before he came over to Extreme Tech, and computers and the future of all that crap. But we're going to start off with hacking because everybody wants to talk about hacking. Let's get right to it. Hackers in China attacking the New York Times for 4 months. They attacked the Washington Post, attacked Bloomberg. Really interesting. They didn't hack it to try and steal trade secrets. They didn't try and hack it to try and bring the New York Times to its knees. They hacked it because they wanted to find the sources that were leaking information about one of the top government officials and the $2 billion, whatever he was kind of siphoning out of the country. I think it's an interesting story for a couple of different reasons, but let's talk about the journalistic reasons first. Jason, as a journalist and as somebody who manages journalists, does this bother you? I mean, they are out there trying to find sources, sources you're trying to protect.
I don't think we're probably going to be a target for the Chinese government, but it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder how safe your email, your IMs, your other electronic means of communicating stuff is when you're working on a story and you've got a source, especially something top secret or something like that. You kind of feel like maybe I can just pick up the phone, but that's not safe anymore. Like, I don't even know how you can really safely.
Well, Adam, is anything safe anymore?
I mean, no. I mean, I would have to say that, while I'm definitely not trafficking in secrets at the level that I think the Chinese government would want to know about, I still like to just get on the phone. I feel the most secure that way, or, God forbid, actually talk in person. But it's funny, as much as our technological advancements have come, you go back and you watch All the President's Men where you're putting flower pots out on your sill, and that still seems like the most reliable way of trying to get information you don't want someone to know.
But think about it. You know lots of inside information about new games that are coming out. I'm sure you know everything about the new consoles that are coming out. You're not allowed to tell anybody until but you probably have stuff written up in emails. If you're a competitor and somebody had spearfished in and gotten into your email, they'd be able to pull out all that information out, right?
Exactly, and that's why I really try to stay away from emails. Texts, here and there, but yeah, it is something to be thoughtful of. And I think one of the benefits is I do video, and so it is a different animal that kind of allows you to sort of have things tucked away in secret places that you don't have to pull out.
What about you, Jason? You turn away from email as something you want to do a lot of really confidential information
It's
on?
probably a good idea, but I admit I have a habit of just living with that, where that's just the convenient way of doing these things, and you think it's safe and you think it's protected.
Jason, what's your email?
It's not as safe as anymore.
So let's move on a little bit from the journalistic implications, just the security implications of everything. I was fascinated to see that one of the companies tried to eradicate it from the organization, went through and cleaned everything, but then they found out that it was hidden in a printer and a thermostat. I mean, that scares the crap out of me.
The thermostat is a weird one. Okay. That's odd. The printer, I believe, but thermostat,
Well, so I've got a couple Nest, the Nests are great, right?
Yeah.
I've got a couple of these smart thermostats in my house. It knows when you're walking around. It knows where you are. Somebody can hack my Next and it knows when I'm home or not.
Yeah.
It probably has a microphone. It knows what I'm saying. No, it doesn't.
No, I don't think it does.
I think I'm just going to buy more sweaters now. Now that I know that these thermostats have enough information of mine. The one thing that really impressed me about this story is almost how polite the hackers were.
Yeah.
That they only wanted information pertaining to whoever was giving the information that this premier was, making all these deals for his family members and that they were profiting from. And they didn't seem to go into any other part of all the information that's at the New York Times. I mean, This is the New York
Well,
Times.
maybe
I
that's
feel
why
like a kid in
they,
the candy store.
That could be why they successfully did this for 4 months, is
Right.
they didn't get nosy about too many other things.
But it sounds like the security firm that the Times had was aware very early on that this was occurring, and somehow it proceeded for the next 4 months.
Yeah, I think one of the broader issues here is this. It really is an example of how the internet is this huge ecosystem that's really set up where anybody can sort of, there's good stuff that happens. Open infrastructure, we've got great new programs and email and all this stuff. But also in this open infrastructure, viruses take root too. It's like kindergarten.
Yeah.
You send your kid to kindergarten for the first time, what happens? They come home with a zillion different diseases. Same thing here. Is there a way really to protect this open infrastructure at all, or should we just throw it out and be done with it?
Well, I think you were talking about it on last week's show, is the mega and stuff like that. The idea of encrypting a lot more stuff. We could probably encrypt a lot more of what we do on the internet, and that just makes things a smaller target. Like, it doesn't prevent you, the information from spreading around, but it makes it less useful.
Right,
harder
but
to do.
encryption is its weakest point is the passwords that you use to encrypt it with, right?
Yep.
And that's what they were stealing by going into the systems and stealing passwords. So,
But they had to get into the system too, so to get those passwords. So there's this revolving door of where's the weakest link in your
right, it's very easy to hash
infrastructure.
passwords now. So you can, even an 8-character password, you can get through that relatively quickly with the power of the systems that are out there now. So I don't know. I mean, Adam, think about game consoles. Are you worried that as, maybe not the current round of game consoles, but the new ones will be so complex, they'll be able to hack them and get stuff in there, and all of a sudden you'll be playing a game and some guy or girl in some other part of the world, you'll be going like, oh man, I'm going to get them, and all of a sudden you'll lose and somebody will beat you.
Well, there was the rather significant hack of the PlayStation Network.
Right.
But once again,
exactly.
it's I wondered if I was being compromised there, if my personal data might be out there, or if my credit card. I've come to the conclusion that this is something that you just have to learn to live with, and that those kind of simple precautions, at least when it comes to someone accessing your finances, that use one particular credit card that's your kind of risk credit card.
Right.
That's out there.
Yeah.
Have a low limit on it, and so if someone does get in,
use different
you can
passwords for
minimize and
everything.
localize the damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use a program called RoboForm, which allows me to create different passwords for everything, which is great, so I don't have to remember all of them. But the problem is there's a master password for RoboForm, which I'm not going to tell you what my password is, but one password. So again, what is that weakest link? And it's very easy to exploit this. There are no answers on this one, but it's a fascinating story. Let's move on to our next story, which is about Amazon, who is making money, literally minting virtual coins so you can buy things on the Kindle Fire. Adam,
No,
you remember when we were covering things like flus? Is this the return of Whoopi Goldberg or what?
I don't know if it's that, but the minute I saw this, I'm like, Microsoft just gave up Microsoft points on Xbox Live.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen this asinine
Everybody hates
experiment
this.
happen, and they're like, no, it doesn't work. People like to see what something costs in their own currency. This isn't Esperanto. This is
And it's
ridiculous.
not as though Amazon isn't already equipped to deal with large-scale market stuff across the whole world in all kinds of currencies.
But I think one of the reasons why they want to do this was to create, to actually give something
They
to
want to
people
give
so they
away
would buy things on the Kindle.
Right.
So it's hard to
They
say,
basically
I'm going
want
to
to give away money.
Right, I'm going
that's
to
not
give you
worth
$100.
money.
It's like, well, I'm going to go buy, something else on Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy apps for my
What I
Kindle.
didn't see with this is whether or not apps would still be able to be purchased and have their in-app purchases and all that other stuff with your regular money. If this is an extra
Is
option,
there an exchange rate? Then they can be set up.
there is. There actually is. It's 1 coin to one penny is the thing, but you can't.
Why make
but
it
you can never
up?
get it back.
Because it doesn't work worldwide.
I guess. Okay, you're
Doesn't
right.
work
Your
worldwide.
penny is
and-
not my pfennig.
Well, and you.
Or Mike Gill.
Once you
or
get
whatever.
an Amazon
Simply.
coin, you can never get it back to real money,
Right,
which is
right.
always good.
Oh,
Like
yeah, you
unspent
can't-
money is money in their pocket, but
It's like gift cards, right? I mean, think about how
just
much
like
money
gift
in
cards.
gift cards goes unspent, and that just goes to the bottom line.
right.
I think there is a psychological component that when you've taken it out of a currency that you actually see value in, and you have something that's kind of fanciful and
Right.
magical, your temptation to just kind of spend it whimsically probably goes up significantly.
I agree with that. Was my problem with Microsoft points. I'd buy a bunch of Microsoft points and was like, I don't know how much this thing is worth. I'll just buy stuff.
I have points.
I have
Yeah.
points. Things are good.
Flush with points.
Jason, you guys test all this stuff. Is anybody really using the Kindle Fire for anything beyond reading books?
Yeah, actually, they're really successful in converting people to buying content. I think in part because their interface is really all about being a storefront.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
like that device is a storefront
That's a
as soon
store.
as you turn it up. And they're selling a lot of people buying and renting movies and digital content.
How do you think the Kindle Fire relates to the Nexus 7, one of its sort of key competitors out there?
I would rather have a generic
an
Android device that's not skinned and all this other stuff.
I remember buying a Kindle 7 and returning it right afterwards when it, not a Kindle, Kindle Fire when it first came out. And
the original Fire had all these problems. The HD is a lot better.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, they fixed some of the issues.
So I have to say,
I think I have
a
stack of these. It was like, look, it's Christmas time. Have one of these. And I actually think that the corporate gift of like some type of tablet does devalue the tablet. It's like if it's something passed around like a bag of Fritos.
Yeah. Well, that thing that we were going to give you for this year for a gift, Adam,
I guess
I'm just going to take it back. You're not getting the tablet. Let's talk about antivirus for a minute. Another kind of hacking story, but this time it's the other side. Kapersky, one of the popular antivirus makers, sent an update out that ended up shutting off the internet access for a number of their computer users.
Yeah.
They fixed it 2 hours later.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, if you're not connected to the internet, you can't actually download the fix to fix your computer. Jason, the thing that struck me about this story was that it was XP only. People still using XP?
Surprisingly, yes. Like that I can't believe. How old is XP now? 11 years or something like that.
Long time.
It's
long time of
ancient.
Microsoft operating system.
And don't use an operating system that old. No matter what you install on it, it is still inherently insecure and has problems. And you can.
I am still running XP on one machine. I'll tell you what I use it for. I do not connect it up to the internet ever.
Right.
I use it for recording music because I've got a soundboard and all this other stuff that plugs in. It all works really well. I've got an old copy of Sonic Foundry on it that's licensed. All these plugins, and when I go out and record music, I just use that.
Right.
And then when I take the audio off, I just take it off via a USB hub.
Yeah.
And that works great. So that's
it's an appliance.
Right, it's an appliance. I don't connect it up to the internet for just this reason, actually.
I mean, look, part of me, I hate this because you're kind of giving the message that things that everyone should have to help keep the internet a little bit safer, which is something like antivirus, can somehow harm you.
Yeah.
That you're really disincentivizing people to do the right thing. In addition, though, I mean, I think, if you're running XP and you're connected to the internet, you need to be taught a lesson. So.
A little bit.
Yeah, I agree, but this brings up the broader issue of auto-updating apps in general. And is it a good idea for us to set all of our apps just upload and auto-update themselves and download and do everything without us getting in the middle of it? I used to think it was just fine. I mean, I love the convenience of it, but is this really a good idea, Jason?
I don't know that you having to tell it to update would have stopped this.
That's true.
Though, right? Yeah. Really, this was on Kaspersky not testing it properly. Yeah. And if they pushed it out to the public, even if it wasn't in an auto update, and you saw there was an update available, and your IT manager said, "Yeah, okay, put it out." I mean, it's another step in the process. Maybe your IT manager or something would test it first.
How good is Kapersky?
I mean, they're usually pretty good. Right? Yeah. I mean, the thing with the antivirus is all the big name ones, they're pretty good. When you start looking at all the fine numbers of testing, it starts to look a lot different. But the worst one is good compared to not running anything.
But none of these guys pick up most of the spear phishing and other things that are going on, right? I mean, there's tons of viruses out there that's just going to go in.
So a lot of the pay, the real issue now really isn't viruses so much as it's things like phishing scams and emails and stuff like that. That's where people are trying to get you. And that's where all the big pay security suites like Norton and stuff are moving to that. They're scanning your emails and going, oh, this is a phishing email and stuff like that. That's the security they're trying to provide. And you're starting to see that in mobile now, especially on Android.
Yeah, speaking of mobile, let's move on to our next story, which is a Google story. Google saying big changes coming for AdWords. They're changing AdWords around in a pretty big way. So it'll work with mobile campaigns in a seamless way. It'll allow you to do things like, for example, spend more money for the word toast during breakfast than, say, afternoon, or pancakes or donuts or something like that. I think the real interesting aspect of this is not that they're doing this to take advantage of mobile, and they said that mobile searches for Google will be over 50% next year.
Sure.
I think YouTube, we're seeing almost 50% of our views happening on mobile now.
Wow.
I think this more points that Google's kind of missing the boat on mobile, right, Jason?
Well, they have been till now. I think this catches them up. And I think the worrying thing about this is not I'm paying more for somebody searching for toast or pancakes in the morning. I think the worrying thing about this is location stuff. And when I'm doing a search and it knows where I am and I'm in a certain spot, that's where mobile gets you is location, right?
But what's wrong with that? I like the fact that if I'm searching for pancakes and there's an IHOP around the corner, I know.
I'm just a little worried that Google knows where you are just to serve an ad.
See, I feel a little differently on this, and I completely understand certain types of privacy concerns, but I'm not that important. I mean, the Google's like, oh, let's prey on Adam now.
Right.
I think there's a practical benefit that in many cases outweighs that sense of disconcerting openness to the corporate parent, because you're right. I mean,
I hope they give you that option to say that, because my concern is not whether or not Google knows where I am so it can tell me there's an IHOP around the corner in the morning. My concern is that Google and a lot of other companies are, twice as many subpoenas from requests from the State Department to get people's personal data. People who haven't been convicted criminals, people they didn't have warrants for, and they've said, well, we're going to stop serving this stuff up if they don't have warrants, but they've said that. I've heard that before.
Lead a good life and it won't bother you.
Yeah.
Is that the argument that if I've not done anything wrong, then I should have nothing to hide?
Do you think that, I do think that Google in many ways is, they're playing catch up on mobile. I think Facebook's playing catch up on mobile.
Yeah.
Does this open the door for new competitors?
Boy, they have a big hill to climb, though. Just being good on mobile doesn't make you the Google competitor.
What if everything's mobile?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, can Google get good at mobile before somebody who's good at mobile can get good at everything else Google does? Probably.
I mean, I think the basic infrastructure that Google has, them shifting into something that's more amenable to mobile, sounds more predictable than an unknown entity out there that we have yet to discover that can just take them on.
All right, I got a question for you guys.
All right.
Tablets.
Yes.
Is this mobile?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this mobile, my notebook computer?
The ones that start to have things like connecting you to the internet without having to find a Wi-Fi hotspot.
Well, this one's, I mean, I've had 3G or 4G in these things for ages.
Then I think it is, yeah.
So this is mobile, this is mobile.
Right.
Is my, now my 10-inch tablet, which stays at home and never leaves home because I take this with me everywhere, is that mobile?
Yeah, that's the question. Like,
right? So
like
where do you draw the line?
If you don't actually, if the use case is you don't actually carry it with you, even though it's possible.
I carry it around the house.
But I don't consider the laptop as mobile because of the way that you interface with it.
Yeah.
Because if you open up the laptop somewhere, you're probably committing at least 15 minutes, if not more. Whereas if you have a tablet, you can get some business done in 2-3 minutes. That's why the interface is set up to be quick and easy.
I'm a little surprised how many people I see open a notebook on the bus.
Yeah.
Honestly, here in the city, it's weird.
Okay, what about the Surface RT?
Yeah. It's not really good at either.
Well, the new Surface, right? That runs on the, it's got an Intel chip in it. It's got a keyboard. And it's a tablet. Yeah. It's a floor wax. It's a dessert topping.
This is like Glenn or Glenda all over again.
All right, enough of Google. We're going to move on to a couple other things that I wanted to go a little bit deeper on this week. First is the changing face of PCs. So a really interesting story. Dell, one of the original guys building PCs in his dorm room, selling them out. I mean, it used to be when Dell first started is people in companies would buy a Dell on their own money and they'd bring it in through the back door. Dell grew up. Dell went public. Dell ran into problems. Dell now going private, $24.4 billion. Money from Dell's own investment company. Silver Lake, a huge VC firm, investment firm. Microsoft putting money in. Jason, is this the end of the Wintel monopoly? I mean, is this really the end game here?
I don't know if it's the end game for Wintel. I think the idea here is that people don't buy computers like they used to. People used to care about this customizable box, and they wanted this thing and that thing and that thing in it, and they wanted to customize it, and Dell could turn that around to you really quickly and cheaply. And they made an empire out of that. And now, people, I mean, look at all the Ultrabooks and the MacBook Air and all that stuff. They're not as configurable, and people don't care that they're as configurable. They want a price point, they want a user experience that's really good. And I think, and Dell's not, their whole infrastructure is not really built for designing a really amazing, user experience thing that's not customizable. That's not where they've built.
And look, Dell tried to do mobile. They tried to do phones. They had a great little tablet, the Streak, bad name, nice tablet. But they really never were relevant.
So
in that market.
I don't think they can commit to this. I don't think they can commit to this with a public company with quarterly reports and things looking over their shoulder and all this, and a board and all that that's going to say, no, you have to do blah 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 for the shareholders. You have to meet this thing.
Well,
this
they
month
still have a board. It's just a board composed of different people with maybe a longer-term view, which is what you're getting at.
That's what I'm getting at. Is I think if they're going to reinvent this company, and they need to, into something that's going to sell the products that people want going forward, then I don't think they can do that in a public company. So
Yeah,
this is probably a smart move.
I mean, I would have to say, I think that the brand, you know, when they tried to move into mobile, you know, they were trying to put Dell in front of it, but it had lost any sense of currency. Dell really became this seemingly generic thing that you would find in most businesses. It doesn't have anything sexy, and yeah, you're right. You can't modify an Apple product as well, but the Apple brand, the confidence that comes with that, the sense that you're buying into something, I think really has kind of trumped the usability, I guess, of what Dell sold. I don't know if they can overcome that even by going private and completely retooling the company.
I'm reminded of, there was that SNL skit about the change bank. All they do is make change, and they make it up on volume. Right? But it was the same sort of thing with PC companies. They did this race to the bottom, like who can make the cheapest thing with this specs. And Dell won that race in a lot of ways, but that's not what people want anymore, and that's not the products they need to be making. They need to make a whole new company, and now they're stuck with a brand that is associated with, well, it's cheap.
I mean, because like, watch TV. I mean, even police departments in TV worlds, they use Apple products, which is amazing because I thought no one had any money.
Well, okay, so wait. What happens on television is not necessarily what happens in real life. Let's be clear with that.
How dare you?
Apple has a really good department that gets their products out.
No, it's amazing. But I mean, once again, it's just that sense of branding that. You know, I don't even think a Dell buy-in on a CSI episode would do much to kind of give the sense that it's something that's got sexy again.
It goes back to Jurassic Park, right? When they were like, what was that movie where they were like hacking into the mainframes with a Dell that was like completely crazy? Jurassic
that's
Park.
That's about 25 different movies from 1995 to 97.
Independence Day is the one where he hacks the alien spacecraft with the MacBook. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah. That could never happen. So back to the Dell story, though. You know, I was I had an email exchange with Michael Dell this week when it happened, just congratulating him, and I covered him for a long time. Really smart guy, really dedicated to what he's doing. Seemed really pumped about it, and really, I think it's fascinating because they started as the company that was going around enterprise IT. So you'd buy your Dell and you'd sneak it in the back door. Now, it's all about becoming an enterprise tech company and doing more consulting. They bought Pro Systems, I think, or EDS, I can't remember which one, and. They're really reinventing themselves that way. Do you think that they can become enterprise IT's best friend?
They might be able to, but my bigger concern with taking that tactic is that enterprise IT is waning. It's all about bring your own device. People want to use consumer devices. The back end, though.
Someone's got to do those servers, and someone's got to do those racks, and someone's got to do all that stuff in the cloud.
The question is, can they do all that stuff? Can they do all
that?
Can
they reinvent themselves so that Dell means something in that world?
Right. And do people want that, or are they just going to go, Google will give me that, or whoever, Microsoft, somebody, I can lease something that some other big company does in the cloud, and I don't need my rack of servers. And I don't know.
Adam, what was the last Dell product you owned?
That's a great question. I think I had some form of a computer on my desk where they may have scratched the Dell off, and it really was like, you know, Bell by that point. I mean, you know, it's funny. I don't see the logo that much anymore.
How about you? You look at Dell products over there.
We have a couple of people who have their latest XPS, the Ultrabook, which carries more of an XPS brand than the Dell brand, and that's a pretty good product, actually.
Well, you know, the XPS. I mean, I'm just going to rat hole a minute on XPS because I remember one of the advisory councils I was on with Dell, and they were thinking of killing the XPS brand. And I remember saying to the guys there, you know, some of the top, I was like, don't kill XPS. It's the best thing you got going. It actually stands for performance, and the stuff actually works, and it's good. And they kind of made it a brand modifier for a while, and they brought it back as a main brand, which I think makes a lot of sense. But it's still in that dying PC area. Which, speaking of dying PCs, let's talk about dying PC software. Microsoft Office. Going to Linux. All right, now this is a rumor. We don't know that this is true, but they are looking to release maybe Office for Linux. It actually makes sense because they're supposedly making Microsoft Office for Android Linux variant. You know, maybe it's just a little step there. Is this a big enough market for Microsoft to care? Adam, do you think that they care about Linux?
No, I mean, it's so funny. Like, we're just talking about Linux, and this brings me back to the Tech TV days. When you kind of say it, it had this kind of special sparkle. And now, like, to be honest, Linux just seems to be just kind of the kind of club that's used by that hardcore PC group out there.
This is going to be the year of desktop Linux.
Again,
every year it's going to be the year.
It is consistent with Microsoft seeming to finally kind of realize that they just can't control everything. You know, but prior to them announcing the Surface, when they were talking about smart glass at E3,
Right.
and suddenly it'll be supported on any tablet, including Apple ones. I was like, look, they've all grown up now.
Yeah.
And then they announced Surface, and I had to take back everything I said.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a derivative.
I'm skeptical of the idea that they're going to do an Android version.
Right. I was going to say, on the Android stuff, are they actually going to do that?
I mean, I've not heard that they are, and I'm skeptical of the idea that when they're trying to put it all online anyway.
Right.
They're trying to not.
Right. They're putting it all in the cloud.
They're putting it
so
on the
does it really
cloud.
matter?
So does it really matter? Can't I just go there in a web browser, and that's my Android experience? And I don't understand why they would do this. Really.
I think Office on here would be good. I still use Office. I think it works better on a PC. The Excel on the Mac's terrible.
Yeah.
It sucks. PowerPoint, people are going to Keynote.
Yeah,
but I
it's good.
still think it's a solid product. And maybe it's just because I've been using it for so
I
long.
still don't think
really
anyone
well.
makes a better word processor than Word.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but nobody writes anymore anyway, so who cares?
It's true.
So again, does this portend the end of the Wintel monopoly? Because if Word is everywhere and Office is everywhere, you don't need a Windows box.
You don't need a Windows box, and I think Intel realizes that, and they're getting the win out of that Wintel. They're struggling really hard to become a competitor for your Qualcomms and stuff of the world and make great mobile chips. And they're having a rough go of it, but they're making progress. But can they get there in time?
Well, there's no Tel in those mobile processors either. I mean, the Win and the Tel are gone.
Yeah.
No Intel, no Windows.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're trying to make
exactly.
Intel mobile processors, and they're
Well, they're trying. We'll see how that
They're
goes. Another guy who actually thinks that PCs are great and wants to see a lot more of them. It's Gabe Newell from Valve, and he was up talking about this. He says PCs are going to take over the living room. That's what he says. The reason why I was pointing to things like the NVIDIA Shield, which is good. A PC in console form is better. The ultimate $4,000 ultimate living room PC is even the best. We've heard about this thing for a while. Adam, let's start with you. Is the PC really a good gaming option for the living room?
You know what? It actually does work well, especially if you look at what Valve has done with their big picture mode. It really, it's great. You get to see it right there on your television. What Gabe was talking about at the DICE conference, I think he hits on it perfectly. You have to make this a seamless, easy to use experience, and we're not there yet. I mean, the PC is so alienating to so many kind of average consumers out there in terms of connectivity, having to update drivers, all those kind of small things, that if you can make something that can really automate itself as well as a gaming console or any type of set-top box, you really, really have a good shot. But you can't just say that in concept this works, people are going to love it. You have to make it so that someone who's 65 years old and is terrified of technology will suddenly realize what's at their fingertips.
Jason, how many products have we seen over the years that tried to make the PC a living room device and failed utterly?
A bunch, and to their credit, I mean, that's one of those things where the time wasn't there yet. I think PC hardware has gotten to the point where it's easier to do a better job of it now. It's easier to put a more powerful computer in something that's a smaller, quieter box that's less expensive, and get something akin to a console experience. And the software is coming along, like you said, Valve's big picture mode and stuff. A lot of the software doesn't necessarily need a mouse and keyboard. You got a lot of PC games that work great with a controller. Because who wants a mouse and keyboard on their coffee table?
No, and it's with that in mind. I think the only issue is to what we have just been talking about. How many people have PCs that they're planning to upgrade that could actually do this? I mean, that's why a small thing like a Roku device, if it'll just stream stuff, that makes more sense. It's a very cheap buy-in, and it can be specified to what the consumer actually wants. I don't think an all-encompassing. Someone who wants to watch Murder, She Wrote may not want to play, Crysis 3.
But look, we were talking about, we'll talk again to consoles in a minute, but you think about the consoles, they come out and 5 years later, another one comes out, and they're really powerful when they come out, and then they totally lag by the time that their life cycle is over. It's 5, 7 years later. PCs, you can keep on upgrading. We keep on coming out with new, faster ones. And if you're running Steam games, a lot of times you want the fastest machine out there. I wanted to play the latest version of Diablo on my TV. We didn't because I didn't want to take the computer out of this.
Yeah, that's mouse and keyboard.
But that is mouse and keyboard, but I wanted the big things there. So I don't know. Is this? I think this is a dream that has been on people's minds for a long time. I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't
I worry about the ecosystem part of it, where the consoles are willing to lose money selling the hardware to make money selling the games, and PC manufacturers aren't part of that loop. right?
Yeah.
They're not getting money on
Exactly.
every game sold. So I'm worried that they can ever really close the price gap to a point where it's really going to attract people. I mean, we've seen the difference when a console costs $400 to where it finally goes down to $300, to where it finally goes down to $199.
Right, yeah.
And you know, so a $100 to $200 price difference to get the PC thing in my living room can be a huge difference.
Plus, once again, you have the trust in the console. You know, Microsoft did such
Everything's
a good job
gonna
about
work,
2 years
right?
into the life of the 360. It suddenly really is able to sell media, stuff that isn't game related. People are now accustomed to that. And there is that kind of chaos theory thing that always will surround a PC and that kind of infrastructure.
Yeah.
But whether or not you've done
Is
the right
mine
thing.
powerful enough to play the new game?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's the other side of that. I get to upgrade it, right?
Well, look, and also one of the things that you have with Steam and even with PC games is there is no secondary market for them, right?
Right.
I mean, GameStop will not buy your PC games and resell them.
Right. You probably never bought a PC game that they could buy back, though. Now, right? You probably bought it on Steam or something.
No, look, I'm actually. I was telling.
I mean, me too. I mean,
look,
the people are buying.
I was telling
downloads.
Tara Long, I'm wicked jealous of her because she spent a couple hours playing the new SimCity. That's a PC game I want to buy.
Yeah.
Oblivion, we bought Oblivion for the PC.
But you'll download it on Origin.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you won't buy a disc and sell it. So again, no resale market there. No resale market on all these mobile devices.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the Xbox
Right.
720, our next story, because this is all about how...
Or whatever they'll call it.
Or whatever they're going to call it.
I'm guessing
The
just
Xbox friend. That's what I'm aiming for. So
I'm-
just be so cuddly. It's
The
like
Xbox,
Microsoft is a big teddy bear that comes in your home. And
My
think
money
they're
is just on Xbox.
Right. Okay.
No modifier.
So it's the Xbox friend, the Xbox. I think they're going to call it the Xbox Wii Plus. But the rumor that came out this week is they're going to block used games.
Yeah.
They're going to make you take a code and put that in and not be able to. Jason, you're skeptical.
No, I wouldn't
think it's gonna happen?
I would not be surprised if it happens. My thing is that you shouldn't care. Like
yes, thank you.
Like yes,
Why not? I
good,
like
that's what
buying
they-
used games. They're cheaper.
Well, all right. So that's the key. The key is you want to buy a cheaper game, not that you care that it's used, right? So we all love Steam and we all love games on our mobile devices. And all these other places you can't buy used games,
Right.
but we like them because the developers have control over their pricing. And they can run a special and go, oh, this weekend, summer sale, 30% off, whatever. You can do these things, you can get a deal, you can get it cheaper. And we love these platforms. So as long as Microsoft changes their rules on pricing and stuff and lets developers get control of their pricing, I don't care that I can't buy a used game because I'm already not buying used games for my phone and for my PC on
Well,
Steam.
but also, I mean, one of the biggest complaints you're getting with games is you're looking at, like this week, Dead Space 3 comes out. And everyone's angry because there's microtransactions in the game. Or that, you know, there's countless games that have this multiplayer mode that just seems so kind of just tacked on and pointless. A lot of this is because they're trying to undermine the used game sales. They're trying to give some incentive or some new revenue stream to help offset what they're losing on used game sales. If gamers don't want that, they need to understand that get rid of the used games, allow for maybe a more malleable pricing model so that a really good single player game like Uncharted 2 with a rather insufficient multiplayer game could possibly be sold at $40, where something like Oblivion or Skyrim that has hundreds of hours of gameplay can go for $100. That will start to, it's a more sensible pricing model.
Or even,
but with used games,
even
it
if they
just can't
can't
happen.
change the pricing, just having the idea that, like they do on the PS Vita or something, every game that comes out, I can download the day it comes out in the stores. Like, don't make me wait, or don't, whatever.
Yeah,
I
I
can
gotta
just
get my
download
code,
it.
wait
Then I
in
don't have
line.
physical media and end caps in stores, and
And also for the companies, I mean, how many people who, when they're drunk, buy a game they would normally not walk into a GameStop when they're sober-minded and purchase?
How many?
Quite a few.
I know. I've
I think
done
everyone
that.
on this couch has done it. I guess I got to get drunk this weekend and buy the cave, right?
You
yeah,
can
I
do
guess.
that one sober too.
Yeah, okay, all right.
It's-
I was kind of looking forward to it anyway.
I mean,
but yeah.
it's Ron Gilbert, yeah.
It's Ron Gilbert. It's a seal of approval there. What happens to GameStop in this world? Do they go out of business?
That's where I think the trick
Yes.
is. I think that if the Xbox Super Buddy and the PS Super,
Super
yeah.
Buddy or Super.
If they decide, if they do run used games, this could be because GameStop still is a very, very powerful entity.
Right.
You couple that with Walmart,
Yeah.
who I don't believe sells used games.
I don't think so.
I've never been to Walmart
Best
in
Buy
my life.
does
I've never
now.
seen that.
Best Buy does. They have enough strength, and we can't expect everyone to switch over to digital, that they have to have a copacetic relationship with them. That could actually kind of
Yeah, who's going to sell
prevent-
the console?
Yeah,
Right?
it is tricky, and I think I think that both console manufacturers and all the game publishers would like to block used games, but that may be a sticking point that they can't get around.
I got to actually shout out for Walmart for games for a minute, because when I wanted to get Skyward Sword in the extended edition or the special, it was sold out everywhere except a Walmart over in the East Bay, and I drove over there and got it. I was super
Where
psyched.
in East Bay?
It's like right over the San Mateo Bridge. Right on the other side of the San Mateo Bridge in Hayward or something.
That's far away.
I wanted to play the game.
I haven't been to Hayward since I was 10.
I wanted to play the
new
game.
Target.
I understand.
I would have liked to have downloaded it, but
Check the new Target. That's the other. That's how I got my Wii U.
They didn't have
the
the Target.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Wii U? Rat hole. What do you think of the Wii U?
It needs a couple firmware updates, which are apparently coming, and
It needs a couple games.
needs some
couple
games.
games. Needs a Zelda
and
game.
Can it get them before everybody's just all they care about is the next Xbox?
Well, I
and
mean,
PlayStation?
they're not going to have a significant Nintendo game prior to what we now are dead certain is going to be the PS4 announcement on the 20th. That means Sony starts to take the mind share away from Nintendo.
At least for the core gamers, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And can they make this thing cheap? I don't think with the controller they have and stuff, I don't think they can be the significantly cheaper console, the way cheaper console.
Yeah, I waited in line for the Wii. I don't have a Wii U. I don't care.
I played mine
There's no
twice.
Zelda game. What?
I played mine twice.
Twice. So let's move on to our last story, which is another console story. This is on the Ouya. And $99 Kickstarter console, runs Android. They said this week they're going to be launching a new console everywhere. It's like a cell phone.
This is pretty smart, yeah. This is, I mean, given the infrastructure that they have and what they're doing, they're building on Android, and it's so they're going just like the cell phone market. It's just going to be $99 every year. They'll just put in whatever hardware they can fit in for 99 bucks.
Tell me about this
and get more
console, Adam. Is
powerful.
this something that people are actually going to want to buy?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
Not in large numbers.
Everything around the Ouya reminds me of Snakes on a Plane, where you get all this kind of fury and excitement and just kind of on the internet that doesn't translate into sales.
So
I think it's a misnomer to call it a console. It does play Android games and it puts it on your TV. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever, I got to do this with the NVIDIA Shield. Android games, they work on your phone. And when you blow them up on a TV,
I've been running them on here.
Nobody wins. Yeah. It really.
Well, they'll be doing versions for the TV, and in some cases that works. Like we just talked about the Cave, they'll be doing the Cave and stuff.
Right.
So it's a good place for those games that are like the Xbox Live Arcade games, and that level of game.
But where's the market?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Where's the market? So here's what's interesting about it to me is that at $99, which is the price of your Rokus and Apple TVs and stuff, and it's an open platform and can do this media stuff. Maybe what it ends up being is a media streaming box like a Roku. Once they get Hulu and all this other stuff on there, that happens to be
get purchased by a company like Roku, so you can start to get more of an all-in-one, very kind of down
basically
market
then
box.
It's a Roku that plays pretty good games, not your console competitive games, but it's something you could play games.
They already have Angry Birds on the Roku, so there's a little bit of there's something there. What about, for example, think about the subsidized model. What if someone came up with the next big MMO and said, you know what, instead of having to pay for the MMO, basically give us $150 and you get this thing for free, and every year you get a new one to play the next version of it.
Subscribe to the MMO for a year.
Yeah.
Agree to subscribe for $15 for a year, and we'll just give you the console to play it on.
Right, exactly. We'll give you the console for free.
It's cheap enough that there's a lot of neat things they could do like this that kind of make it interesting once you realize it's $100.
Once again,
they haven't done
all
them all
the rumors are out there that at the very least Microsoft, I bet Sony would do this too, will start to entertain the free-to-play market. Right, it is such a big market that they can't start ignoring it. If they're allowing that to be cooperative on those boxes, you're once again kind of negating the need for this secondary device that does the smaller and the cheaper games.
So I think that Ouya is going to do okay in the sense that they'll sell like 5 or 10 million of them, which sounds great, but compared to like an Xbox or a PlayStation where they sell 60 or 70 million or something, it's not there.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be okay. It'll be a healthy sort of small market where small things can go.
You know what it reminds me of more than anything else is that we saw a few years ago those single devices with a little joystick where you'd have all of the games from the 60s loaded on or the 80s or whatever.
And then you're suddenly like, hold on, they aren't fun anymore.
No, you hook up your TV, you're like, this is no good. I don't like this. I'm going to go back to something else. All right, last question for you guys real quick. You think that the new PS4 is going to be launched in the Microsoft Buddy or whatever. Target price, what do you think? It's going to be 400, 300, 200?
600.
We don't know what the hardware is, but going off the sort of rumors and what they want to do with them, I think PS4 is going to be about $400. Xbox is going to be somewhere around the same level, and then there'll be bundles where it's like, but that and a Kinect and that and a
Right, we'll get you higher.
PSI.
I would like to think Jason's right. I think that we're going to see probably 2 SKUs. One that will not appeal to hardcore gamers that is going to come in at 400, but the one that really has the hard drive space and what really is designed for the gamer out there, it's me pushing 600.
That's a lot of money for a console.
No, I think it is too, but I think they're in it for the long haul. They saw how this cycle, went about 8 years pretty healthy and really tapered off in the last 2. They're going to future-proof it, and they know that they can get the early adopters at the beginning. They can then bring down the price and make more and more inroads into a wider
My guess
market.
is more 4 and 5, not 4 and 6.
All right. Well, we will find out very soon. I want to thank you guys. That's it for this episode of Downloaded. Jason Cross from Tech Hive, thanks for coming. Adam Sessler, Rev3 Games. Great having both you guys here. If you got any questions, comments, suggestions, or you want to get one of your questions or one of your stories talked about, post them down in the YouTube comment section below. We'll answer them. We'll do our best. Until next time, you have been watching Downloaded.